All right, Andy, thanks for taking the time to join me on this conversation today, man. So for anybody watching this video, just real quickly say your name, where you're from, and what your farm operation looks like.
Yeah. So my name's Andy Schreck. I'm from a small farming operation here in West Central Minnesota. I bought a farm place back in 2015. I had roughly 15 cows when I moved to the farm place here, and as of last year, I expanded it to roughly about 45 head of beef cattle, and then farm roughly 200 acres of farm ground, and then also farm with my dad, and he has roughly 1,300 acres of farm ground. So just a cow calf operation and some row crop farming operation too.
Okay, awesome. So how long, you've been in Legacy Farmer for how long now?
It's been about 6 months,
Is it 6 months or is it more than that?
a little over 6 months.
Was it
Joined
December?
December 31st.
Okay. All right, perfect, man. So here's the first question. All right. What was not working inside of Andy's life prior to joining Legacy Farmer? What were the problems and challenges you were facing that made you say, hey, you know what, I gotta make a change?
So the biggest struggle I was really up against was just coming from, so when I bought my farm place here, like I was 19 when I bought it, and taking out a loan for that amount of money, like it just, as a 19-year-old, I didn't have any training or any experience prior to what it actually takes to manage a farm. The skill sets and mindsets that I need to make it work. I just didn't have that. I watched my neighbors, my dad do it, everyone else around me, and they never open up and actually tell you what it's like to actually run a farming operation. So I thought that you just do it. And the first couple of years was a learning experience, and the tricky part about it was I had good crops and fairly decent prices those years, so I didn't have any challenges. And then 2017 and 18 rolled around, and then market prices started to take a tank, and same with yields in that same year. And I was in a position of really starting to hurt. And it was really in that spot I just realized how serious and how fast an operation can turn around when you literally just kind of wing it like I did, or just put the crop in the ground. Whatever the calves are going to weigh, or whatever the prices are going to be at the markets at the end of the day. Like, that's the working wasn't the issue for me. The work of putting the crop in the ground, taking care of the crop, raising the cattle, fence work, that wasn't the issue. It was the end of the year when all your hard work is done, and you see that you're short again, and you realize that you don't have any control over that. Like, I did everything else I could, but nothing else was there to work.
Yeah. So what was it like when you came up short? Like, you busted your ass all year long, right? Like everybody does. Like, we know how to work. We grew up in the Midwest, on the farm. Like, you know how to work. What was it like when you found out at the end of the year, like, I remember, like, with you specifically, only being able to pay interest on your loans, right? Like, what did that feel like? Because a lot of people watching this are going to, like, they'll know what you're talking about there.
It was devastating. Like, the reality of it, and not the sad thing is, but the most shaking thing is that, like, literally a couple weeks prior to that meeting with the bank is when I was starting to finally, like, dive in and actually see where I'm actually at. And then the reality kicks in, and then you realize that, like, you're stuck here. This is the position you're in. Like, first of all, how did I get here? And now, how do I even get myself out of it? And then where do you even go? Who do you turn to?
Yep.
Like, you can't, I feel like you can't go to your neighbors and ask or talk about your situation that you're in. It's devastating, and you just feel lost. And yeah, it wasn't a fun place to be in at all.
Yeah, 100%. So on top of all dealing with everything, every bit of that, what was the biggest thing that changed for you once you joined Legacy Farmer? You made the investment of money, time, and energy to come into our program and really implement everything and start taking action. What was the biggest thing that changed for you once you joined?
Confidence.
Okay.
For sure. And clarity. Just being surrounded by other members who are experiencing the same thing. But also, when I was in that that low spot, you might say, or in that position, like I understood that I'm going to be the person to make this work. Like I'm going to be the one to, like, it's really up to me if I want to make this work. And that decision for me led to wanting to see where I was coming short at. Like there was issues that was happening that I was pretty blind to, or just not seeing what was actually going on within the operation. But as soon as like I was into the network, I was able to open up more and to get clarity on the directions I needed to go, what needed to be solved, and really just get a direction moving forward. Like I was just sitting still. I wasn't moving. I was just doing the same thing over and over and over again, and understanding that if I keep doing that, I'm going to get the same results in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. It doesn't matter. If I have the same mindset, doing the same thing over and over, I'm going to get the same results. It's just guaranteed to happen.
Yep. Did you feel like you were just burning out, man? Like you're young, right? Younger farmer. Did you feel like you were just burning out? You go out, you take the risk, you buy this farm, you buy this ground, you start pouring all your time, energy, and just massive amounts of dollars into this. And then to find out like you're not getting ahead at all. Like you're not getting ahead at all. Like, did that cause you just into this area of burnout in your life?
Not only burnout, but just even, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
You know, it took all the fun out of it. It's great hopping in the tractor and putting that seed in the ground. But at the end of the day, when you shut it off and you walk out to the reality of where the operation's at, those 6, 7, 8 hours, whatever you were in the tractor, that all goes away as soon as you step into the reality. So it definitely took the fun out of it. And yeah.
Okay. So what are the biggest things? Like you said, confidence and clarity change. Like how do you put a value on clarity? Like, we have a lot of different discussions inside of our groups, on our coaching calls, everything like that. How do you put a value on clarity?
I mean, it's to be able to finally have a direction of where you can move forward to and see the possibilities. I mean, it's invaluable because now you can see what can happen. If you give yourself the permission, or even to see what's going to be possible by not only understanding the position you're in, but pressing forward and to see what's going to be possible if you start to acknowledge and make present with the current situation. Now you can move ahead and move forward and find the direction you need to take, instead of just hoping and praying for another better year, which doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Okay. So out of everything that we're doing, man, which, we got a lot of different things, the trainings, the resources, the coaching calls, the daily tools, core 4 of the stack, the network, everything that we have going on inside of Legacy Farmer, what is Andy's absolute favorite thing?
I'd say the coaching calls.
Okay. And everybody's saying that. My question is why?
Because that's where you're going to have the most open and real, raw conversations with each other. And it's going to make you go in deeper into the real and raw situations and actually expose that.
Yep.
And to be able to solve those problems.
Is it valuable for you actually hearing, all the other members filling out hot seats, talking about their problems and challenges? Like, how valuable is it for you to be able to listen in on their specific problems and challenges, and how much of them, so one, how valuable is it to you? And then two, how much of them do you relate to?
Oh, 100% to all of them.
Okay.
I mean, just the different areas that it affects, and how it's a domino effect in every other area. I mean, it really is.
Yeah. Do you feel like a majority of farmers and ranchers today feel like they're just alone on an island, like nobody else is dealing with their problems or challenges?
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think they're exposed, that they're not alone once they come into our network? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Perfect, man. So last question. Okay. And as you know, establishing trust is pretty difficult inside of this industry. I mean, it took you how long to fill out the application?
6 months.
Okay. So, and we know that was a mixture of one, is this legit? Is this real? Right. But then two, it was Andy having the fear of being exposed a little bit. Right. And I want to talk, before I actually ask that last question, like talk a little bit about that. Like, explain your experience around just the fear of like having the problems actually exposed in your life and seeing how bad or how good it is, and finally having clarity to move forward.
100%. So back in July of 2019 was the first time I came across Legacy Farmer, and that was the message from Jason the feedlot, and that video and everything that was messaged in that video, just, I mean, every single area just hit home with, because the reality and the truth was finally being exposed. Like I knew what the truth was. I really did, but I wasn't ready to confront that yet with myself. But I remember that day, I took a screenshot of that link. And I knew that day when I found that I was going to become a part of that one day. But it took me over a series of 6 months to actually come to the point where I was ready to face that with myself and to take that step forward.
Okay. What scared you about being exposed?
I think just thinking that I was the only one dealing with that, and that there was going to be a lot of guilt and shame for having to experience that, thinking that you're the only one with this issue.
Yeah. Do you think a lot of it was, and I'm asking because I think this is going to be relevant for everybody else watching this video, do you think a lot of people, they fear being exposed and accepting the fact that what they're doing is failing?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. That was like the biggest thing that my dad fought for years. Was the biggest hurdle for him to overcome was like, I worked for 40 years on this feed yard and I failed.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. So back to the original question here. It's like I said, it's difficult to establish trust inside of this industry. I mean, specifically the ag industry, right? So let's say, what is one thing you would say to somebody that is literally like, they're sitting on the fence like you? They've been listening to the podcast for 3 months now or 5 months now. They've clicked on the button to apply and fill out the application and stuff, but they just haven't done it yet. Like what would you say to that person?
What's going to happen if you don't do anything? I got to the point where I knew that if I didn't do anything this last year, that the writing was on the wall. And I didn't know exactly what my results were going to be, but I knew something had to change. I knew you just knew it. Something had to change.
The writing was on the wall for what?
The operation would probably be non-existent the next year.
Okay. Because there's a lot of people that are dealing with that. They know that, hey, if I don't change, writing is on the wall, this thing's going down.
Yeah.
So, okay. Awesome, man. Well, thank you again for taking the time to do this with me today.
You bet.